In life, some choices leave shadows that linger for decades, quietly shaping our paths until they resurface in the most unexpected moments. For Logan Carter, a man who had spent years chasing wealth and power, the airport was just another place to pass through, until a familiar figure stopped him. Across the bustling terminal, he saw Amelia, the woman he had once promised forever but abandoned in his pursuit of success. Standing beside her was a young woman, Claire, whose unmistakable resemblance to him left Logan breathless. What happens when the mistakes of your past confront you face to face? Logan's luxurious yet lonely life had given him everything except peace, and now he stood on the brink of a reckoning. Amelia's eyes, worn but determined, seemed to speak of years of untold struggle, while Claire's gaze, though distant, carried questions he wasn't ready to answer. As the pair disappeared into the crowd, Logan knew this was no ordinary encounter, a second chance wrapped in uncertainty and guilt. But could he summon the courage to face the wounds he caused, or would the weight of his regrets keep him from reclaiming the love he had lost? If stories of redemption, love, and the power of second chances resonate with you, stay with us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss these heartfelt tales that remind us it's never too late to make things right. Are you ready to explore Logan's journey? Let's dive into the story. Logan stood motionless in the airport terminal, the bustling noise around him fading into the background. His mind was no longer in the present, traveling back almost 2 decades. He could still see Amelia's tear-streaked face as she begged him to stay, her voice trembling with hope and despair. "We can build a future together, Logan. Please don't go." But at that moment, her words couldn't compete with the lure of the skyscrapers, the boardrooms, and the promise of fortune awaiting him in New York. He had left everything behind. His hometown, his modest dreams, and most tragically, Amelia. His departure wasn't just a goodbye. It was the severing of a bond they had spent years cultivating. At the time, he convinced himself it was necessary. "I'm doing this for us," he had said, even though he knew the truth deep down. It wasn't about them. It was about him, his ambition, his hunger for success. Years in New York passed in a whirlwind of achievement. Logan became the man he dreamed of being, a self-made millionaire with an empire. The champagne flowed at every party, and his name was whispered with admiration in elite circles. Yet, when the music faded and the night grew quiet, Logan would find himself staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, haunted by a profound emptiness. The more he gained, the more he realized what he had lost. Amelia had been his anchor with her quiet strength and boundless belief in him. Without her, every milestone felt hollow. He tried to fill the void with fleeting relationships, but none could replicate his abandoned connection. Then there was the memory of that last letter Amelia had sent him a year after he left. He never opened it. He had been too afraid of the guilt it might contain, too arrogant to face the reality of the life he had forsaken. Somewhere in a drawer in his penthouse, that letter still sat, unopened, a relic of a life he had pushed away. Now, seeing her again, older yet still carrying the same aura of grace and determination, Logan felt his heart twist. And the girl by her side, her youthful energy mixed with a striking resemblance to himself, left him shaken. Was this his daughter? Could he have abandoned not just Amelia but a child as well? The weight of those unanswered questions pressed on his chest like a stone. Logan's hand instinctively reached for his phone. He wanted to call someone, anyone, to confess, to ask for advice. But who could he possibly turn to? His life, for all its glamour, was empty of meaningful connections. For the first time in years, Logan felt truly alone. Logan returned to the present as the airport's announcement system called out a departing flight. His chance encounter with Amelia had lasted only moments, but it had unleashed a storm inside him. He couldn't let her vanish again, not without trying. He needed answers, closure, and perhaps a chance to make amends. Determined, he began weaving through the crowded terminal, his eyes darting between passengers, searching for any sign of Amelia and the young woman. His polished shoes clacked against the tiled floor, his heartbeat quickening with each step. He approached a security guard stationed near the baggage claim area. "Excuse me," Logan said, trying to mask his urgency. I'm looking for someone, a woman and her daughter. I saw them just a few minutes ago near Gate C. Is there any way to locate them? The guard gave him a sympathetic but firm shake of the head. Sorry, sir. This is a busy airport, and it's nearly impossible to track someone without more information. Logan muttered his thanks and stepped away, his frustration mounting. The faces around him blurred as he scanned the crowd. Every unfamiliar face reminded him of how little he knew about Amelia's life. Where had she been all these years? What had she endured? And why hadn't she tried to contact him? Beyond that one letter he couldn't bring himself to open. Feeling defeated, Logan sank into a chair at a nearby cafe, the aroma of coffee doing little to calm his nerves. His mind raced as he replayed the brief encounter. He couldn't shake the image of the girl's face, how her features mirrored his own. The thought of having a daughter, of missing nearly 2 decades of her life, was unbearable. As he sat there, memories of his youth with Amelia flooded back. He remembered the small park where they used to sit for hours, dreaming about their future. Someday, we'll have a little house with a garden, Amelia had said, her eyes sparkling with hope. Logan had laughed, teasing her about her modest dreams. Now, that simple dream seemed far more meaningful than any mansion he had ever owned. Logan clenched his fists, the weight of regret suffocating. He couldn't leave things like this. He couldn't return to his empty life in New York without at least trying to find Amelia and the girl. With renewed determination, he stood and went to the airport's exit. Outside, the cool evening air hit his face, grounding him. He needed help, someone who could track them down. Reaching for his phone, Logan dialed the number of a private investigator he had used before for business matters. I need you to find someone, Logan said, his voice steady but urgent. A woman named Amelia and her daughter. They were at the airport today. I'll send you the details. As he hung up, Logan felt a glimmer of hope. The search had begun, and he would do whatever it took to find them. But deep down, he knew that finding Amelia and Claire was only the first step. The real challenge would be facing the consequences of his past and proving he deserved a place in their lives. Logan looked up at the night sky, the stars hidden behind the city's glow. For the first time in years, he whispered a prayer, uncertain if anyone was listening but desperate for guidance. A week later, Logan stood in front of Amelia's house. His heart pounded as he stared at the chipped paint on the front door and the small wildflowers-filled garden. He hesitated, his hand trembling as he raised it to knock. The door creaked open before he could knock, revealing Amelia. She froze, her hand still on the doorknob, as her eyes locked onto his. For a moment, neither spoke. Logan, Amelia finally said, her voice steady but laced with an edge of caution. Amelia, Logan replied, his voice thick with emotion. I've been looking for you. For both of you. Amelia crossed her arms, stepping slightly into the doorway to block his view of the house. What are you doing here, Logan? After all these years. I needed to see you, he admitted. I saw you at the airport. I couldn't just walk away. I know I've made mistakes, but I must make things right. Amelia's face hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line. Make things right? After 18 years? You can't just show up and fix everything, Logan. It doesn't work that way. Before Logan could respond, a voice called from inside the house. Mom? Who's at the door? Logan's heart stopped as a young woman appeared in the hallway. She had his eyes, his dark hair, and an expression that was a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Claire, Amelia said, her voice softer now. This is Logan. Your father. The weight of the word father hung in the air like a thunderclap. Claire's eyes widened, and her expression shifted to anger. My father, she repeated, her voice sharp. You mean the man who abandoned us? The man who left you to do everything on your own? Claire, please, Logan said, his voice pleading. I can't change the past, but I want to be here for you now. I want to make amends. Claire stepped forward, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. You think you can walk in here after 18 years and act like a father? Where were you when Mom worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table? Where were you when I needed someone to help me with my homework? Or when I was in the hospital, scared out of my mind? Logan felt her words like a series of punches, each cutting more resounding than the last. "I have no excuse," he said quietly, "but I'm here now. I want to help. Please, give me a chance." Claire shook her head, her eyes blazing. "We don't need you. We've been fine without you." "Claire," Amelia interjected, her voice trembling. "That's enough. Let's not do this here." Claire stormed off, leaving Logan and Amelia alone on the porch. Amelia sighed and stepped aside, gesturing for Logan to come in. The living room was small but cozy, with signs of a life lived modestly but with love. Family photos adorned the walls, but none included him. Amelia sank into an armchair, while Logan took a seat on the couch. The silence between them was heavy, filled with years of unspoken words. "You have no idea what it's been like, Logan," Amelia began, her voice breaking. "Raising Claire on my own, working myself to exhaustion, watching her struggle with things I couldn't always fix." Logan lowered his head, shame washing over him. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, Amelia, but I want to help. I want to be part of her life. Part of your life, if you'll let me." Amelia looked at him, her eyes filled with anger and sadness. "Forgiveness isn't something you just ask for, Logan. You have to earn it. And Claire, she's been through so much. Don't expect her to welcome you with open arms." Logan nodded, his resolve hardening. "I'll do whatever it takes. I just want to prove myself, to you and her." Amelia leaned back in her chair, her gaze softening slightly. "It's not going to be easy, Logan, but if you're serious, you'll have to show us. Not with money or words, but with actions." The tension between them eased slightly as the evening wore on, but Logan knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. He had taken the first step, but earning back the trust and love of Amelia and Claire would require patience, perseverance, and unwavering dedication. An awkward and tense routine marked the days following Logan's reunion with Amelia and Claire. Logan, eager to prove his sincerity, began visiting their modest home regularly, often bringing small gifts or groceries. Yet, every step forward seemed to come with resistance, especially from Claire. Claire avoided him as much as possible, retreating to her room whenever he arrived. At meals, her responses were curt, her tone laced with resentment. "You don't have to pretend you care," she said one evening, pushing her plate away. "We've been fine without you." Amelia often found herself mediating between her daughter's anger and Logan's determination. "Claire," she said softly, "he's trying. Can't you give him a chance?" "Why should I?" Claire snapped, her eyes flashing. "He walked away from us, Mom. Now he wants to waltz back in like none of it happened. It's too late." Sitting at the table, Logan felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy blanket. He wanted to argue, to tell Claire he was a different man now, but he knew that words weren't enough. He had to show her through actions, a task that felt overwhelming in the face of her hostility. Adding to the strain was the relentless pull of his business. Though Logan had delegated much of the day-to-day operations to his team in New York, crises still arose. Every missed call or urgent email was a reminder of the empire he had built, and the demands that came with it. One afternoon, Logan sat in Amelia's living room, attempting to help Claire with her schoolwork. She barely acknowledged him, her responses clipped and uninterested. Just as he was about to try another approach, his phone buzzed. "Logan," his assistant said on the other end, her voice tinged with urgency, "we have a major issue with one of our investors. They're threatening to pull out unless you attend an emergency meeting." Logan's stomach sank. "I can't leave," he said firmly. "You'll have to handle it without me." "I'll try," she replied hesitantly. "But they're insisting on speaking with you directly." After hanging up, Logan looked at Claire, who had already abandoned her homework and disappeared into her room. Amelia entered the room, her face weary. "Work?" she asked, crossing her arms. "It's nothing," Logan said, though the tension in his voice betrayed him. "You've been on edge all day," Amelia pointed out. "Are you here to be with us, or are you still chasing that world you left us for?" Her words stung, but Logan knew they were true. He was torn between two worlds, one he had built on ambition, and the other he desperately wanted to rebuild with his family. The tipping point came one late evening when Claire's health suddenly worsened. Amelia burst into Logan's room, her voice frantic. Logan, it's Claire. She's struggling to breathe. Logan sprang out of bed, rushing to Claire's room. She was hunched over, clutching her chest, her face pale and clammy. Logan scooped her up without hesitation and carried her to the car, with Amelia following close behind. The drive to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and mounting panic. Logan's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel as he weaved through traffic. Amelia sat in the back seat, holding Claire's hand, whispering words of comfort through her tears. The medical staff acted swiftly at the hospital, whisking Claire into the emergency room. Logan and Amelia were left in the waiting area, the sterile walls closing in around them. Amelia paced the floor, her hands trembling. This isn't the first time, she admitted quietly. Her condition, she's been battling it for years. The treatments are expensive, and I've done everything possible, but her voice broke, and she sank into a chair. Logan sat beside her, his hand hovering uncertainly before resting on hers. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked, his voice thick with guilt. Would it have mattered? Amelia snapped, pulling her hand away. You were off living your dream while I was here, holding everything together. Logan fell silent. Her words cut more profound than he expected. At that moment, he realized just how much Amelia had endured alone. Hours later, the doctor approached them with a grave expression. Claire is stable for now, he said, but her autoimmune condition is worsening. She'll need more aggressive treatment and constant monitoring. It's going to be a long, challenging road. As relief washed over Amelia, Logan felt a surge of determination. Whatever she needs, he said, standing up, I'll pay for it. I'll make sure she gets the best care. Amelia looked at him, her eyes tired but skeptical. It's not just about the money, Logan. She needs stability, love, and trust. You can't buy those things. Logan nodded, knowing she was right. Then I'll give her those things too, he said quietly. I'll do whatever it takes. Back at the house, Amelia sat with Logan that night in the dimly lit living room. Claire was asleep in her room, her breathing steady but shallow. You have a long way to go, Logan, Amelia said, her voice soft but firm. You've hurt us in ways you don't even realize. But tonight, you showed me something different. Maybe, just maybe, you can prove that you've changed. Logan leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. I'll do whatever it takes, Amelia. Not just for Claire, but for you too. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but want to earn it. Amelia gave him a long, searching look. We'll see, she said finally. But this isn't about words, Logan. It's about actions. And it's about time. In the days that followed, Logan threw himself into caring for Claire. He accompanied her to doctor's appointments, researched her condition obsessively, and even learned how to prepare her medications. Though Claire remained distant, there were brief, fleeting moments when she seemed to soften. Watching from the sidelines, Amelia couldn't deny that Logan was trying. She allowed herself a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to being a family. The following weeks were a whirlwind of medical appointments, restless nights, and cautious hope. Claire's condition, though still serious, began to stabilize under Logan's relentless commitment to her care. He was there for every appointment, learning the medical jargon and ensuring every prescription was filled promptly. But Claire wasn't ready to forgive. She spoke to him only when necessary, her words clipped and guarded. Logan noticed how she recoiled whenever he tried to show affection or engage her in deeper conversations. Each rejection stung, but he pressed on. One evening, Logan found Claire on the couch, staring blankly at the television. He hesitated before sitting down beside her, careful not to intrude. Claire, he began gently, I know it's hard to believe me right now. I know I've hurt you and your mom in ways I can't ever fully make up for. But I need you to know, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Claire didn't look at him. Instead, she tightened her grip on the blanket wrapped around her. You think being here now fixes anything? You missed everything, Dad. My birthdays, my first day of school, my hospital stays. Where were you when I needed you most? Her words sliced through Logan, and his voice faltered as he replied. You're right. I wasn't there, and I hated myself for it. But I'm here now and want to earn your trust, even if it takes the rest of my life. Claire turned to face him for the first time, her eyes brimming with tears. You can't just walk back into my life and expect me to forgive you. I don't expect that, Logan said softly. I just want the chance to try. Claire didn't respond, but she didn't leave the room either. It was a small step, but Logan clung to it like a lifeline. As Logan continued his efforts to reconnect with his family, he found himself drawn into the routines that had sustained Amelia and Claire over the years. One Sunday morning, Amelia invited him to join them at church. Logan hesitated at first. He had left faith behind long ago, replaced by the cold logic of business and success. But when he saw the hopeful look in Amelia's eyes, he couldn't refuse. All right, he said. I'll go. The church was modest but alive with warmth and community. People greeted Amelia and Claire with genuine affection, and Logan couldn't help but notice how much this place meant to them. He felt out of place at first, his tailored suit starkly contrasting with the casual attire of the congregation. During the service, Pastor Ethan spoke about forgiveness, not as something easily granted, but as a journey requiring humility and perseverance. Logan listened intently, the words striking a chord he didn't know he had. He glanced at Amelia, who was fully engaged in the sermon, and then at Claire, who sat quietly but seemed to absorb every word. After the service, Pastor Ethan approached them. It's good to see you again, Amelia, he said warmly before turning to Logan. You must be Logan. Welcome. Logan shook the pastor's hand, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. Thank you, he said, unsure what else to say. Pastor Ethan smiled. Amelia has shared some of your story. I know this is a challenging road you're on, but it's clear you're trying to make things right. Keep going, Logan. Faith isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance. Later, as they sat in the church garden, Logan turned to Amelia. How did you manage all these years? He asked. Raising Claire, dealing with her illness, and everything else? Amelia looked at him, her expression softening. I leaned on my faith, Logan, and on this community. When you left, I felt like I had nothing. But this place, these people, they became my support system. They gave me strength when I had none. Logan nodded, absorbing her words. I don't know if I can have that faith, Amelia. I've spent so many years relying only on myself. It's not something that happens overnight, she replied. But being here is a start. Logan felt a strange sense of peace as they returned to the car. For the first time in years, he realized that rebuilding his family wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about becoming a better man, not just for them but for himself. As Claire rested in her room that evening, Logan sat alone on the porch, staring at the stars. The weight of the day pressed on him, but so did a flicker of hope. He pulled out his phone and opened a note where he had been journaling his thoughts since his return. I'm not the man I should have been, he typed, but I want to be the man they need now. Every day is a chance to prove I can be better. For Amelia, for Claire, for myself. Logan closed his phone and leaned back in the chair. The cool night air reminded him that his journey was far from over. He would face every challenge, every setback, and every moment of doubt with the same determination that had once driven him to build an empire. But this time, his success wouldn't be measured in wealth but in love and trust. The days passed, marked by cautious interactions and slow progress. Logan made it a point to be present physically and emotionally. He spent hours helping Claire with her schoolwork, even when she barely acknowledged his efforts. He attended her medical appointments with Amelia, sitting silently but attentively, ensuring that every detail of her treatment plan was understood and followed. One day, Logan decided to revisit a part of their shared past. Amelia, he said over breakfast, do you remember the old park we used to go to? The one with the pond and the little bridge? Amelia looked up from her coffee, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. I haven't been there in years, she admitted. Logan hesitated. I was thinking, maybe we could take Claire. Getting her out of the house might be good, even for a little while. Amelia glanced at Claire, who was seated at the table, scrolling through her phone. Claire, what do you think? Claire didn't look up. I guess, she mumbled, shrugging. Later that afternoon, they arrived at the park. The trees were taller, and the playground equipment had been replaced, but the pond still shimmered in the sunlight, and the little bridge remained intact. As they walked along the path, Logan pointed out places he and Amelia had once frequented. "That bench," he said, "was where we sat and planned our future. Do you remember, Amelia?" Amelia smiled faintly, her gaze distant. "I remember." Claire, walking a few steps ahead, turned around. "Was that before or after you decided to leave us?" she asked, her tone sharp. Logan stopped, his face tightening. "Claire, I can't undo the past, but I'm trying to be here now." She folded her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Trying isn't enough, Dad. You can't just show up and think everything will magically improve." Amelia stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. "Claire, let's not do this here. Let's just enjoy the day." The tension hung in the air, but they continued walking. As they reached the pond, Claire paused, staring at the water. Logan joined her, standing a few feet away. "I know I've hurt you," he said softly, "and I know it's going to take time, but I'm not giving up on us, Claire. Not ever." She didn't respond, but Logan noticed a faint softening in her expression. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. As the weeks turned into months, Logan's persistence began to chip away at the walls Claire had built around herself. While Amelia ran errands one evening, Claire unexpectedly joined Logan in the living room. "Mom said you used to be a big deal in New York," she said, sitting on the far end of the couch. Logan raised an eyebrow, surprised by her willingness to talk. "I had my moments," he replied cautiously. Claire fiddled with the edge of a pillow. "What made you leave all that to come here?" Logan took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I realized that all the success in the world means nothing if you have no one to share it with. I thought I was living the dream for years, but I was just running from the things that mattered. It was like a wake-up call when I saw you and your mom at the airport. I couldn't ignore it anymore." Claire looked at him, her expression unreadable. "So, now you think you can just fix everything?" "No," Logan said, shaking his head. "I know I can't fix the past, but I can try to make the future better. And I want to do that, for you and for Mom." She didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. They sat silently for a while, the only sound coming from the clock ticking on the wall. Later that week, Logan took another step toward rebuilding trust. He approached Claire with an idea. "I was thinking," he said, "maybe we could work on a project together. Something fun. What do you like to do?" Claire hesitated. "I don't know. I like drawing, I guess." Logan's face lit up. "Drawing? That's great. How about we create something together? Maybe a mural for your room." Claire looked at him skeptically. "You do that?" "Of course," Logan replied. "Whatever you want. I'll help." Over the next few days, they worked side by side, transforming one of Claire's bedroom walls into a vibrant display of colors and shapes. Logan saw Claire smile for the first time. Not a guarded or forced smile, but a genuine one. Amelia watched from the doorway, her heart swelling as she saw the bond between father and daughter beginning to form. She knew it wouldn't erase the pain of the past, but it was a step in the right direction. As Logan cleaned up the paint supplies one evening, Amelia approached him. "I saw what you did for Claire," she said softly. "Thank you." Logan looked at her, his expression earnest. "I'd do anything for her. And for you?" Amelia nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're starting to prove that, Logan. Just don't stop. She needs consistency, and so do I." Logan placed a hand over his heart. "I'm not going anywhere, Amelia. Not this time." The journey was far from over, but they all felt a glimmer of hope for the first time. Logan knew earning their trust would take more than gestures, time, patience, and unwavering dedication. But he was ready for the challenge. As Logan settled further into their lives, Amelia suggested he join them in more activities within the church community. At first, Logan hesitated. He wasn't sure he belonged in a place where faith and resilience had sustained Amelia and Claire for years while he had abandoned them to chase superficial success. One Sunday morning, Amelia approached him after breakfast. "Logan," she began, her tone gentle but firm, "our church is holding a community outreach event this afternoon. It would be good for Claire to see you involved, not just with us, but with something bigger than yourself." Logan nodded, Sensing the importance of the moment, "I'll go," he said. The event was held in the churchyard, where volunteers gave food and clothing to needy families. Logan watched Amelia move through the crowd, warmly greeting everyone, her compassion evident in every gesture. Claire, though quieter, was equally involved, helping distribute bags of essentials to children her age. Logan, unsure of how to fit in, approached Pastor Ethan. "What can I do to help?" he asked. Pastor Ethan smiled. "Just be present, Logan. Sometimes, that's the most powerful thing you can offer." Throughout the afternoon, Logan was drawn to conversations with the people there. A single father shared his struggles raising 3 children, reminding Logan of Amelia's strength. An older woman thanked him for his kindness when he helped her carry a heavy box, her gratitude touching something profound inside him. As the event wound, Logan spotted Claire sitting on the church's steps, sketching in a small notebook. He walked over and sat beside her. "What are you drawing?" he asked. Claire hesitated before showing him. A simple sketch of the churchyard, filled with people smiling and helping one another. "It's beautiful," Logan said sincerely. "You have a real talent." Claire shrugged, but didn't pull the notebook away. It was a small but significant moment, a crack in the wall she had built around her heart. As they drove home that evening, Amelia glanced at Logan in the rearview mirror. "You did well today," she said. Logan smiled, feeling a rare sense of peace. "Thanks, Amelia. It felt good." Just when things seemed to improve, life threw another challenge their way. Claire's health took an unexpected turn, with a new complication requiring even more intensive treatment. The doctors recommended a specialist in another city, and the costs were staggering. Logan immediately offered to cover everything, but Claire reacted swiftly and harshly. "I don't want your money," she shouted, her voice trembling with emotion. "We've been fine without you all this time. Why do you think throwing money at us will fix anything?" Logan stepped back, hurt but determined. "Claire, this isn't about fixing things. It's about ensuring you have what you need to improve." Amelia intervened, her voice steady but tired. "Claire, this is hard, but your father is trying. This isn't just about money, but about his commitment to you." Claire stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. That night, Logan sat with Amelia at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. "I don't know what to do, Amelia. Every time I try, I seem to make things worse." Amelia reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "She's angry, Logan, and scared. You can't force her to forgive you. You just have to keep showing up. Every day, no matter how hard it gets." Over the next few weeks, Logan did precisely that. He attended every appointment with Claire, consulted with specialists, and even began learning about her condition so he could better understand her struggles. Slowly, Claire began to soften. She still held back, but there were brief and fleeting moments when Logan saw the beginning of trust in her eyes. One evening, as Logan cleaned up after dinner, Claire approached him hesitantly. "Dad," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Logan turned, his heart pounding at the sound of the word. "Yes, Claire?" She shifted uncomfortably, clutching her sketchbook to her chest. "I've been thinking about everything, and I still don't know if I can forgive you. But I think I want to try." Logan's throat tightened, and he struggled to speak. "That's all I've ever wanted, Claire." "Thank you." She nodded, her gaze dropping to the floor. Can you look at my drawings? I mean, if you want." Logan smiled, his chest swelling with emotion. "I'd love to." As they sat together on the couch, flipping through her sketches, Amelia watched from the doorway, her heart full. For the first time in years, they felt like a fragile, imperfect family, but a family nonetheless. Months later, Logan, Amelia, and Claire met at a local art gallery. One of Claire's sketches, a beautiful depiction of the churchyard during the community event, had been selected for a youth art showcase. As Claire spoke to visitors about her work, Logan and Amelia stood to the side, watching her with pride. "You did it, Logan," Amelia said quietly. "No," Logan replied, his voice filled with gratitude. "We did it, together." Their journey wasn't over, and challenges would continue to arise. But for the first time, they faced the future as a united front, bound by love, faith, and the determination to heal. Logan pulled Amelia and Claire into a quiet embrace as the evening ended. "Thank you for giving me this chance," he whispered. Amelia smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you for earning it." And with that, they walked out into the night, ready to face whatever came next, together.